Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hotline League. It is great to be back as we are in the twilight hours of Skype's existence on the show. And, we're just thinking right now about everything it's been through. Anyway, we're going to talk about the show and what's going to be happening, which is we're going to be talking about League of Legends, specifically LTA, which is kicking off and returning this week. We've got matches starting on Saturday. It's going to be a great time. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Cubby. Cubby, how's it going?
Doing well. And excited to talk about hopefully some split two takes.
Yes. Hopefully, as well, audience members, we'd love for you to want to talk about and call in about the LTA and the matches that are played. Everybody usually likes to talk about doom and gloom or something, but that's fit. I'm also down. Listen, I know a bunch of people will skip this, but if anybody wants to call in about Riftbound,
yes,
which just got revealed today, at the very least, Kangas and I can talk about it for a little bit. I'd love to just have it be a singular call, at least, if anybody wants to talk about Riftbound. For those of you that didn't know, Riot announced that Project K, which was the code name for their card game, their physical card game, is now going to be called Riftbound. They showed some new cards from it, and I'm very excited about it. So would love to maybe take a singular call.
Cards look good. Love the name.
Yeah.
Good start. Yeah.
Yeah, it is nice. Do you want to introduce our guest host for the evening, none other than Kangas, who is sick right now, but I appreciate that he's here anyway.
Slightly under the weather. I'm recovering. It was a long weekend, and I did not get enough sleep.
What happened this weekend?
Enough. I was at a Warhammer tournament yesterday. I wasn't feeling like super 100% on Saturday, and then Saturday night, my friend Josh hits me up and was like, "Hey, want to go to a Warhammer tournament tomorrow?" I was like, "I'll probably feel fine in the morning," and then I tried to push through it, and then I spent 14 hours away from my bed and eating pizza. So yeah, now today was just like let's just try and recover from that kind of day. So I say sick, I mostly just mean like kind of fighting something, but I feel fine. I'm like 85% right now.
I do have a friend who's trying to get me to go to a Warhammer event in October in Vegas. Do you know which one this is?
Ooh, yeah, that would be. I think that's like the World Championship equivalent, basically.
Okay,
Usually,
yeah.
the one in Vegas around that time of year is like the big one. Would you? Because there's like side events you can play in, or would you just go to watch and hang out and see what it's about?
Well, this friend plays Magic, so I'd probably try to get card games in with them.
Okay,
and just hang out. So I don't know, but it would be interesting. Anywho,
yeah. Well, hey, you already have Magic, so as much as I love Warhammer, I recommend maybe don't get into it.
No, I'm not going to get into it because I've got Riftbound coming out. So like, I told myself that I would only do one of these, and then Riot was like, "What if we made one?" And then I'm like, "All right, fine, we'll do two."
You can thank Travis for this card game existing.
Yeah, it is like it was either going to be Riot or Brandon Sanderson that would have convinced me to do a second card game. And
when Mistbound.
When Travis interviewed to be the LCS commissioner for the 40th time, they told him, "Look, Travis, we can't take you, but we do have this cool project that you might enjoy." You know,
exactly.
Coming out.
So
yeah.
Fun story. I actually heard about the card game coming out well before it was announced publicly because I pitched internally that we should make a playable card game for LCS players where each player is like a card and has effects and attack and defense and stuff. And then we have different effects. That's like the Vulcan equip card is ratio on Twitter or something like that. Right. And we just like make a meme out of it. And then we actually print the cards and give them to people when they come to the studio. And I was told, that's a fun idea, but we might already be cooking something. So I was like, oh, okay, cool.
But you know what's funny is like then they made an in-client card game as well. So like not just Runeterra, right? But there's the Inscription style one that's in the client right now. So yeah. It is very funny how things go. Anyway, we're not talking about card games right now. We're going to talk about League of Legends eSports. So, any news over the past week that I'm forgetting? It feels like there's not much. I know that LTA dropped their hype video today, which I watched. It's pretty simple, but it's nice to see that they did something special for Split 2.
I got to say, Travis, there's no news. I have heard a few rumors. Yeah.
With regards to teams?
Yes.
Like roster changes?
At least tryouts going on. And
wild.
Are we dropping them, Cubby? Are we dropping them live?
6-man scenarios too,
Ooh.
Throwing that out there.
Well, yeah, are you comfortable sharing any of these right now? Could you say
No,
the
because
teams?
I think it's too late and nothing's been confirmed.
Okay.
But it was an interesting. There was a lot of buzz that came from Media Day, which I think a lot of fans are not aware about. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna put that out into the ether.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at Media
Yeah.
Day, but I was off in a corner doing my own little video, so maybe I just missed whatever mysterious things were happening.
The video was great,
You
by the
walked
way.
by the window. Yeah.
Yeah. The video was good.
Yeah.
Very much enjoyed that.
Well, that's cool. So we'll see.
Mhm.
We'll see if anything comes of that. But it is nice to have you kind of tease something along those lines. We'll see if something's coming. I want to say a video that I think was very interesting was the Cadril Los Ratones video, in which he says he'd like Los Ratones to be in a tier 1 region next year, and if not, then they could maybe do some sort of Academy World Tour where maybe they'd go participate in like NACL. Did you hear about this, Cubby? Did you see this video? Yeah.
I mean, he wants to set up his team to be able to promote the tier 1, and frankly, you can't blame him.
Yeah.
As that's where the opportunity is. I will say that in the past, there is precedent for this because, and the last time I can remember this was if you were a longtime fan of League of Legends, CLG EU going over to OGN Fall and being up 2-0 on, was it Azubu Freeze in finals?
Azubu Frost.
And then, thank you, Azubu Frost. They got reverse swept. I don't think that we've really seen teams actually go about this. I know that there was a couple teams that in the past actually pitched like having their academy teams start in LCS and then sending their LCS team to actually just go play in Korea or just go boot camp. I'd be really interested to see. I think it's a lot more likely that Casual could pull this off at tier 2. But frankly, at the moment, we don't have a take about those Ratones. I know that co-streaming was a really hot topic this past week, so I did pull one of those that we'll talk about a little bit later in between the 2 team takes that we already have lined up.
Cool.
What would be ironic, though, is that if he came to NA, he would have to change the roster because he'd have to have, like, he'd go by our import rules here in NA. So that, I imagine that would greatly change the hype around the roster.
That's true.
We'll see if he actually does it. It'd be kind of cool, but you can only bring like 2 of them with you.
I mean, let's be honest though. Like, Casual probably has some pull, given what he's going to bring to any tier 2 league, and NLC already changed the rules for him, and it was just a massive win. So, yeah, I know Pop Smith. He's like, imagine if we could change the format for viewership mid-year, which did happen.
Dude, it is funny. It's so crazy because Riot just make changes left and right. You know, like Double Lift goes into NACL and suddenly players in NACL could stream their own views. Like,
I love it, by the way.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a sign of the times because, guys, I remember a decade ago when this
was just the thing.
I mean, I was going to say when Riot, like in 2014, 2015, Riot had such a big ego about all the esports stuff that they're like, you should be privileged to be doing anything in our ecosystem. You know, like they didn't want to get like PC manufacturers as sponsors because they were like, no, we're going to hold out for the big name brands and all that stuff. And in some sense, that stuff did like end up working out for them, but it didn't work out for them, I think, maybe as long term as they would like, right? Like they were able to court MasterCard and stuff, but like, I don't know. I think it's just it's interesting to see how much they are willing to change. They are much more flexible than they used to be, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing, but it is notable in contrast to how they've been in the past.
I think at this point, they're willing to work with anybody who is bringing value to their product. And if somebody's going to try and do something that's cool and that the community is getting behind, I think Riot's at a point where they're like, yeah, how can we enable that as opposed to try and control it?
I mean, it wasn't too long ago that they were like, oh, yeah, Bjergsen, you can't be in the Mr. Beast tournament, right? So, like, it's only a handful of years, so it is funny to see.
Yeah. Now I'm just waiting for the near airport K-Corp Los Ratones T1 tournament that takes place in the K-Corp Stadium. That's going to happen, likely sponsored by Red Bull in the next offseason, you know?
I can't wait till Bjergsen makes a team. Well, where's Bjergsen's team? Let's go.
Bjergsen, I think, has left League of Legends behind and will never return. That is my impression of him. He's in, like, some monastery somewhere in Asia meditating right now. He's, for the last 4 days, he's been transcendental. I
mean, that's something that Faker did, by the way. So, you know, maybe it's,
it does, it would not surprise. I mean, that's just so. He's going to show up like Captain America with like the beard again and all that stuff, and when we need him most. All right. Big shout out to Prizepicks and NZXT for sponsoring the show. Very much appreciate their support. But yeah, it seems like there's not been too much news. If anybody in the chat wants to remind me of anything, let me know. Huge shout out, by the way, to both Bob and George, who gifted 5 memberships over on YouTube, as well as Drive By Panda. And then Zachary GG, 30 months of Karn Liberated, 28, Yeshua, 41. And then Big Angry Hobo gifted 20 subs at the start of this. That stuff is super, super helpful, especially because in between splits, we tend to not get as many viewers and support and all that stuff. So I really do appreciate all that stuff. All right. No news. Anything else we should talk about before we get into calls? Kind of feels like normally there's stuff to chat about, but I think maybe it's just been a quiet week. So, Cubby, do you want to go off and grab the first caller?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Let's see.
Do you watch LEC, Travis?
I catch it when it's on. Like I was interesting. I was watching back last night as I was sorting some cards. The JoJo Pion match, which I didn't see all of, but I did watch some of the VOD. And yeah. But why do you ask?
Just because today there were games going on, and there were a couple rookie debuts that popped off. It was kind of cool. SK, their 80 carry and jungler had really good performances. And then we got to see our first Nefiri on the patch played in Pro Play, and it lost. It was great.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Dude, that champ's busted right now.
Yeah. Charizard is here. Charizard, where are you calling from?
Trav. Hey, I'm calling from Houston, Texas.
Just Travis is fine. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is that Fly needs to win the split or they need to make a roster change. And I have 2 candidates for roster changes.
Ooh, this is a spicy one. I love this. Starting off the show in a really exciting way. All right. Why does Fly need to win the split? Let's start off with why they need to win the split or make a roster change.
Well, they had a great Worlds. They were clearly our best team that we sent to Worlds this last year, and they need to show that they can build upon that, take what they've learned and bring it back. And this last split, they ended up 4th. I mean, technically, I guess tied for 3rd with Cloud9, but they lost their best of 3 series to Cloud9 earlier in split 1. So they were our 4th best team this last split, and so I think they need to show that they've brought something back and learned from Worlds and can build on it.
Yeah. All right. Why? And you think so? Let me ask you this: do you think that there are obvious roster changes they should make? Because I think one of the challenges with Fly is, yes, they underperformed in split 1, but at least it's been months since split 1, which is funny to think about. But at least to my memory, I don't remember it ever being and this player or this position was just really lacking, and that's what held them back.
Well, that's one of my main candidates. The other one is more of I guess a troll candidate. But my main candidate, I think, is the one they actually considered changing out, which was Bwipo.
Oh, yes. I do remember those off-season rumors.
Why?
I think they even kind of talked a little bit about.
Yeah, they talked about running a 6-man or role swapping JoJo into Bwipo coaching.
Yeah.
Why do you believe that Bwipo needs or should be changed if this split doesn't go FlyQuest way, Charizard?
I think Bwipo really loves the game, but I think he's starting to love the game more from a coaching perspective rather than from a playing in his personal play perspective. And I think he's been really vocal about coaching this last split 1. His whole rant after they beat Shopify Rebellion was about trying to level up the LTA as a whole after they beat Shopify, which to me was not a major win. I mean, I think Shopify is the hospice of league careers. You can just ask Wild Turtle. I mean, that's where you go before your league career dies. But Bwipo, he was very on about trying to level up the LTA as a whole. When they went down to Brazil, he put out a tweet saying, hey, reach out to him about coaching. He didn't have, he said he ran out of coaching spots. So I guess he got a lot of interest there. And then I think recently he's also tweeted out about asking or looking to help people and coaching them. And so I think he still really loves the game, but I think his focus seems to have been more about coaching others rather than his own personal play, which I think actually would have really played well if the JoJo situation had worked out, because that was really the role he would have taken on.
Okay. I feel like there are a couple aspects to this that I guess I'll somewhat push back on. First off,
Sure.
some of like Bwipo and being vocal about coaching and helping others improve, like A, it's something that he's followed through on. And B, I think it's definitely a push from him and FlyQuest. Like, I remember FlyQuest talking about that, hey, Bwipo has a lot of strong opinions, and we want to help him actually be able to talk about that and put himself out there, which I think that both Bwipo and FlyQuest have done a good job on as a team. Also, I mean, Travis is mentioning the break. And frankly, I mean, if Bwipo wants to use his break, both playing, which, by the way, he's streaming and playing solo queue right now, and coaching, like, I used to use that in my personal off seasons as a caster. I think there were 2-3 years in a row where leading up to the opening of the split after like a 3-month break, because I'd take a break from casting, right? I would put out a tweet. I'd say, hey, anyone that wants to cast, I will do play-by-play or color. I will do a review. And the reason I do that is because I learned from both learning and teaching. I think that teaching can sometimes give you a much different perspective on how you look at things, because it forces you to have the intellectual conversation where you aren't the person, or you are the master, but you have to communicate with that. And sometimes it's really valuable talking to someone that isn't the master or also is very qualified at your craft and might have their own opinions and own experiences, which could be valid and help you, right? Like Bwipo is getting paid to share knowledge for all those hours. Frankly, like if I am a coach, I think that I would love if a player did that, right? If A, they're qualified enough where people want to sign up for that, and B, it's a different way to exercise that muscle of actually playing the game. Now, where I will somewhat agree with you is that I think that Bwipo like has had a couple regular seasons where he hasn't been at his best. Like I feel like FlyQuest last summer, Bwipo played much better in playoffs than on the regular season. I think some of that is props to Bwipo for stepping up when it matters. I also think that he was okay actually in split one. For me, the issues with FlyQuest was more so team issues and not like individuals really underperforming. I thought that FlyQuest's greatest strength was that at Worlds they picked comps that would scale. They were very, very disciplined about when they could fight and when they couldn't. Whereas split one, I feel like they opted towards some of the same strategy and then just kind of fought everything. So I think that was my greatest issue with FlyQuest and why they might have fallen short. But I do think that at least with Bwipo coaching, like I personally like the fact that someone is taking the time out to work that a different muscle within the game. I think that is good for you being an expert at your craft. Doing this is more than just playing solo queue, and I appreciate how Bwipo is like following through on things that he's talked about. And I don't like coaching is something that can help you as a player. Again, you get value from teaching and learning. I very much believe in that. So that is where I will push back, and I can somewhat agree with. I feel like he's gotten a hall pass on regular season performances at times, but I think that he's a special player that it would take a lot to replace. And I think if FlyQuest does that, they would need to make more changes than just him, right?
Two things off of that, Cubby. First thing, everyone noticed how he said he used to make those posts about casting. Haven't seen one in a while, Cubby. What's going on? Where's the practice? Number two, there's a couple players that I always would be happy whenever they are ready to step away for them to take a role of a coach. I think that Bwipo's absolutely one of those. I got to see him coach back at Team Liquid. He was still playing for them. He was then streaming for them as like content creator, but also like helping out with their staff and stuff. And I got to see him coach APA on Academy and like just do review sessions with them. I sat in on some of those and got to kind of witness what that looked like, helping Spawn out before he got the promotion up. So he already has some background in that, but it's going to come down to when he feels ready to walk away. Because I'm still happy to have Bwipo play if he wants to play.
Oh, for
but if
sure.
he wants to go to coaching, I think that absolutely he's somebody that could do it. I think Core JJ is another person that I would love to see eventually go to coaching once he's ready to step away from playing. But the bigger question I have for you, caller, is who's going to replace him? Who's on your list? Do you have somebody in mind already? Because that's a big shoes to fill for FlyQuest.
I think they should try to get JoJo back again. JoJo's played, as far as I remember, one game top lane. It was against Bwipo, actually. And he did pretty well that game. JoJo has been, I think, underperforming expectations at LEC. He did better this last weekend, I think, more the second game rather than the first game or the first series. But I'd be interested to see JoJo at top if that. I mean, I know that's something that I don't think he was interested in, but that's what I would like to see.
It's okay, Color. I miss him too. Yeah.
I also miss JoJo.
Cubby and Kangas, how likely do you think is that JoJo would want to come back? And obviously they'd probably have to pay a buyout in order to get him, which I don't know what's going on there. But
if JoJo were to come back, I think wherever Inspired is a decent bet.
No. FlyQuest is definitely probably, I feel like, the only spot for him.
Yeah, same.
So
I agree.
I agree with that.
I don't give it that much of a chance. I think it would be like 25% that he comes back, and then also there's a different discussion about whether he's playing mid or top. Obviously Quad hasn't been mentioned, right? So I think that and Quad's play has been really solid. I think Quad's a good player, so it'd be hard to argue to drop him for JoJo, or harder. Quad has for sure made it harder to argue for that.
Yeah.
I
think it also comes down to how much Merwin and Elyoya are bullying him right now. So, like, just on his motivation for wanting to come back to NA.
I mean, sometimes more bullying works. Personal. You know, the more that we bully each other, Kangas, feel like the closer we get, right? So
true.
Lack of bullying.
But we're also both from the Midwest. So that's just cultural, you know?
That's true, yeah.
All right. Well, not going to get into the topic of bullying, but yeah, okay. So if your take, Caller, is if FlyQuest doesn't win, they need to go get JoJo to save them. Is there anything else that you would add to that?
Nope, that's what I think they need to do.
Okay.
There's just a lot of ifs there. There's like if JoJo's actually available, if they'd be willing to trade him. I don't think JoJo would work best in top lane. Like there's so many questions.
Yeah, I think JoJo can work in top lane. I mean, we've seen Zhao, who I think is the one who did it back in 2019, 2018, somewhere around there.
Yeah, just one of the greatest mids of all time. Just decided to play top and Smurf for a bit. It's fine.
JoJo's supposed to be one of the greatest NA mids of all time too.
I really hope that he lived up to that expectation, but sadly he was prevented by going international by APA 3 events in a row. So that's not great, sadly.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons he might have gone to Mad Lions was they seemed like they had a good chance of going international, but it seems like that might not be the case now with K Corp, Fnatic, and G2. And so coming back to Fly, he might actually have a better chance going international than he does with Mad Lions.
All right, so are you dead set on JoJo, or do you think there are other options? Because I think I'm seeing Chad talk about it, and my brain immediately went to somebody like Surdy, who's on the come up. And yes, Bwipo did have that Garen 1v1 clip where he just bodied Surdy and like kind of ran him in their 1v1 matchup in general. But I think there's other names that you could add to the list. JoJo's, I think, a stretch though. Like I would not expect him to be coming back to play top lane anytime soon, especially not like after one more split here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to Cubby's point of where he was saying, part of it may be some team issues going on, and we know Inspired and JoJo can work pretty well together, and we just don't know how well Surdy can work with Inspired or the rest of the team.
I know for a fact when Surdy was on FlyC, Inspired really respected him because Surdy is very good at communicating. And would call a lot of his team's shots and side lanes and timers, and Inspired liked him as a player. So I know that's not like super public. I used that note for the NACL finals that Surdy and FlyC won. So I will add that just into the mix. But again, this FlyQuest team is so interesting to me because I just think that Bwipo and Inspired, like these guys have been good enough for as long as they have, where you kind of just let them go about their business and hope they show up when it counts. They've done that in the past and have somewhat earned the right to do that, right? So I do think that a lot of this game is about peaks and valleys and figuring out how to peak at the right time. For me, Bwipo and Inspired have earned the right where even if they haven't looked the best at times throughout regular seasons, they have showed up when it counts. And until that doesn't happen, I don't think you make changes.
Yeah, so, just one of the other things that we are not talking about in this, but we talked about in a previous episode, Charizard, and I think Cubby and I were just talking through it and realized it. Summer split is very short, or split 3, I should say, is very short. And so it is, in my opinion, a situation where if you are a team that feels like you want to make a change, you should probably do that during split 2. because the fact of the matter is if you are trying to make that change before split 3, you better hope things click really quick, because teams start getting eliminated really quickly, and then you go straight into playoffs, and then you go basically straight into worlds. So gone are the days where like split 3 or like the final split started like the second week of June. Now it starts, I think, kind of like towards the end of July.
You do have like an MSI and EWC break in there to figure it out, but unironically, Travis, like I do know that a few teams were running tryouts this past week, and I heard rumblings of a couple teams considering maybe having a sub or bringing them on board. I think part of this is being inspired by the fact that I think that people looked at the schedule and the formats and were like, oh God, like if we're going to make any changes for split 3, we actually have to prep to do it now, right?
I think it was probably inspired from the show where we had that conversation like 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure what happened was like Papa Smith, he was probably in the chat. He probably went to the other team owners and was like, did you guys realize this? They figured it out on Hotline League.
Reconsulting.
And then, everybody's panicked and started reacting. So.
And then they raised all the player salaries, right?
I wish. I actually got flamed for my NACL rant where there was someone in the comments that was like, why is he complaining when there's more viewership and eyeballs on it? When the entire conversation was about how players went from being paid $65K a year to $1K a month. So that was fun. I like that one,
Well, they're going to rant. I think to kind of bring this all back, look, I don't know if JoJo is the solution. I don't know what the solution is. It's quite an issue because I hadn't really thought through this, Tarzad, which is why I appreciate you calling in with it, because I think it is a fair question of, okay, what happens if FlyQuest ends up third this split? They should probably be concerned about their ability to make worlds, especially since you have one less team. And then they should probably figure out how to approach that. It's just their window is so short, and I honestly think their options are pretty short, because I just don't think that, like, if they don't do well this split, that it's going to be like Whippo was the problem. I think it'll probably be something more holistic to do with the team, and that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for them to solve. So, yeah, I definitely think they're in an awkward position unless they can figure out how to make it work.
Also, there's just a lot of competition for those spots right now. I mean, like with Team Liquid, yes, it was lane swap meta that they were able to go to first stand, so who knows how good they're going to look now in spring and summer, but we have 2 world spots available for North teams, and Cloud9's looking good. 100 Thieves is still like punching above the weight class that a lot of people have expected for
FBI
them.
great ed.
Yeah, it's like really hard, man. Only 2 spots available, and there's 4 teams, and I can see any 4 of those taking it. So it just statistically 50-50 chances right there.
I think that, like, again, there was real parity in the league among the top 4 and the bottom 4 for LTA North. I have a little bit of hope that Dignitas and maybe Shopify Rebellion can make that, like, close the gap in there a little bit. But I agree with you going into the split. It does feel like 4 teams can truly compete for the 2 spots, and that's going to be quite competitive.
Yeah. Hey, Charizard, thanks so much for the call. Anything that you want to shout out here at the end?
Prizepicks, of course. It's March Madness, so I'm sure they've got some picks on there. Is that true?
Yeah, I imagine so. I haven't looked at their March Madness stuff. I normally look at their esports stuff, but we can load it up right now and see.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure, because I believe the NCAA has some rules about betting on college players and player props itself. But I know that that's for sports books. I'm not sure if it's for Prizepicks.
Yeah, that's it's a little different on Prizepicks because it's a fantasy game. There's CBB1H, college basketball first half. I assume that's
yes,
that's March Madness.
Oh yeah, there are lines.
Yeah. They do have it. Yeah, there are squares.
Picks. Go get your picks in.
Yeah, thanks so much for shouting out our sponsor. Did you want to shout out anything other than our sponsor?
Shout out to all the viewers that are watching. Your number 1 sponsor.
Okay. Thanks so much. I'll catch you later. All right. Speaking of sponsors, honestly, I was going to do the NZXT sponsorship plug first, but maybe we'll do this one first. So we're going to air this little video that I've put together to explain how our sponsor Prizepicks works, and then we'll be back.
super easy to use. So maybe I like Jojo Pyun at more than 9.5 deaths over the first 3 games of his series. And maybe I believe Mickey X is going to get less than 31 assists. I'll go ahead and hit finalize lineup, where it'll show me that if both these things end up coming true and I play an entry fee of, let's say, $20, I'm going to end up winning $60. Prizepicks is available in over 40 states, including California and Texas. And if you sign up, use that link below. It's a big thing that you can do to help me. You can use code Travis whenever you make your first lineup of $5 or more. Win or lose, they're going to give you $50. Now, please only choose to play Prizepicks if you can do so responsibly, but doing so and signing up does help my channel very much. And you can actually join the discussion with other TGI viewers in my Discord. We have a Prizepicks channel. If you're trying to get into it, that's a great place to start. So thanks so much to Prizepicks for sponsoring this piece of content.
All right, I realized the volume on that little clip for some reason a little quiet, but hopefully you were able to see the visuals and all that type of stuff to understand how Prizepicks works. But yeah, Prizepicks is available, and what's cool, I said this last week, and then they did end up having it. Sadly, I didn't notice it until Tuesday, or maybe they didn't have them up. But you can play the near airport games. They have them up on Prizepicks whenever near airport is going to play. They also have why am I forgetting the name of the other really good team who they played against? Cubby, please help me out.
To just beat them in NACL?
Yes.
Cubby, who did they play again in NACL again? Was it Shogo's team?
No, it's Luminosity Gaming.
Luminosity,
yeah.
thank Luminosity, you, Cubby. Yeah. That's what I was looking for. My God.
Tactical. The Malphite alts on the Tristana were non-existent. A lot of the chat was confused,
Regardless. That is up Luminosity, and they have matches for Luminosity and also near airport. So that's available. And then obviously whenever LTA returns this week, you'll be able to play Prizepicks there. So when you do sign up for Prizepicks, please use the link and my name. That is how they know that we sent you, and it is actually really impactful. So thank you so much, Prizepicks, for sponsoring the show. Let's move on to our next caller, Cubby. If you want to go grab him. Thank you to 504 Caesar for the $10 super chat over on YouTube. Free Mars and Mochi Teddy for the memberships. YouTube coming through. YouTube pretty generous tonight. That's pretty nice. Juno says, I'm dumping my entire tax return into Prizepicks. Well, you could do that. You could also dump half of it into Prizepicks, half of it into YouTube memberships and that type of stuff. In fact, speaking of YouTube memberships, I just posted a members only video. Members get to vote on stuff for my YouTube channel, and we did a video on my favorite places I've visited and traveled to, especially through eSports. So that's over on YouTube for members only. Khajiit is here. Khajiit, where are you calling from?
Columbus, Ohio.
Ooh. Columbus, Ohio. What do you want to talk about on the show?
All right. I'm going to caveat this with, obviously, not an expert, making huge assumptions, Texas-sized assumptions. To my understanding, Spawn is right about co-stream viewers not being that valuable to the ecosystem, to the product as a whole. So he's right about that. But I don't think you're getting rid of co-streams anytime too soon. So I think Riot just needs to find a way to make it work and make those viewers more valuable, probably by making co-streamers play ads.
It's been at least 3 months since we've had a co-stream take, so I guess this is time. It makes sense, though. Do you want to explain what you're referencing when you say Spawn is right? Because I think a lot of people might not know that.
Oh yeah, so Spawn had TL had a video. It's inspired by Jubilee videos where he was talking to Redditors, although most of them weren't Redditors. But and his take was that co-streaming is bad for the ecosystem, and then if they could get rid of it, they should get rid of it and go back to the old style of just hiring talent to do stuff, to do the product.
Was Spawn's position, because I didn't see the full video, was Spawn's position that they should get rid of co-streaming?
It was more so that they opened Pandora's box, and it's really hard to shut it. But he believes that it should not have been open.
Yeah.
There was a lot of discussion, like Cajal and Shocks were getting into it. Cajal, there was a whole thread that made Reddit.
And I'm sure Cajal agreed with Spawn.
Yes and no.
Oh, really? I was surprised he agreed, because obviously as a co-streamer, he's probably...
Yeah. I don't know exactly how Shocks got in on the conversation, but I saw that she was in as well. Yeah, I mean, it blew up this past week. So, yeah.
I mean, I will say Shocks has always cared a lot about sort of broadcast conversations and all that stuff. So I didn't see what her conversation about it was, but yeah. All right. So do you want to elaborate on why you think co-streaming bad?
So my understanding is just you can't really advertise to co-stream viewers in the same way you can advertise to, or I should say, show sponsorship stuff to main broadcast viewers. And obviously, I'd like a nice stable ecosystem for esports, and might help us get some of that, or not have to turn to some unsavory sources. So yeah, it'd be really nice if we could make those people make some money for the ecosystem. It'd be cool.
Yeah, that's the big argument that I always hear is like most co-streamers will go away from the stream when the ad break hits. So the sponsors are not getting the co-stream viewers, or at least that is almost impossible to track the metrics for then LTA or LEC to send back to the sponsors to say, hey, the co-streamers had this many eyes on this ad at this time. Because like you don't know unless you go and check the VOD of like what they were actually looking at that time.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this for a while on the show, the issues that are around with co-streaming in terms of sponsorship value and all that type of stuff. And I honestly feel like sponsors just don't notice. From a lot of the sponsors that I've had conversations with over the years, and even some that I've been sponsored with in the past, like a lot of them will sponsor a league, but then not be like paying attention to like they'll care about the big moments. Like MasterCard will probably pay a ton of attention to the MasterCard opening ceremony.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they are not necessarily going to be like, okay, like did at 4 hours and 37 minutes into this 6-hour broadcast was a random co-streamer B like covering or talking over the plug for our new giveaway that we're doing. So I think that is an issue. Yeah, I mean, I do mostly agree with the Pandora's box sentiment, where like there's just no way to bring it back. Like people will be too angry. Similar, I think, to what happened with, well, I won't get into it, but the draft situation and between Split 1 and Split 2, and so I don't know. I think it's a really big challenge. But you say that you have a solution to this, Khajiit.
Like I said, big assumptions. But I think, I don't know, if you can get these people to just watch the ads rather than like, in certain co-streams over the ads, they might be playing TFT or talking about genitals or complaining about a player. I think if you could get them to just watch the ads, maybe you could sell those ads a little better.
Yeah. So to be clear, I don't know if like there's an issue right now in terms of selling the ads. Like I would be very surprised if when Riot goes into a meeting with any sponsors that the sponsor says, hey, we're not able to sponsor because we've seen what your co-stream situation is. I just don't think that, as I was saying, brands are glued in on that type of stuff right now. I think they're probably saying like, oh, we don't have spend right now because we're worried about a recession, or, oh, we just are already deploying money in the gaming space in a different place that we care about more, or we have worries about how much you're charging for the viewership that you have. So I don't think that sponsorship right now is probably directly stymied by the co-streaming situation. I think it's an issue that could happen in the future, to be clear. Like this has happened over and over again, where I remember back when Facebook was auto-playing videos, whenever people used Facebook still, and there was a big scandal where College Humor and a couple other places all went under because, not under, but they got dramatically impacted because there was a giant advertiser exodus from Facebook videos because Facebook would just autoplay the videos as you're scrolling by and nobody would see the ad. And so it was like basically misreporting and stuff. And I think you could have a similar moment like this where if the conversation sparked up the chain enough that there was a broader story where like New York Times or Bloomberg or something did a big article or investigation on co-streaming numbers, you could see a huge issue in some of this. And quite frankly, I worry that you could see legal repercussions where brands might say, hey, this was like misreported data or something along those lines. So
yeah,
I've always felt like this was very dangerous. I think you have sales teams at different publishers and different places who are just sort of like, oh yeah, we're doing this and reporting the numbers, and this is how our partners report them to us, so that's how we report them to our partners. And but yeah, I worry about it in terms of like, could the co-streamers I totally agree that there should probably be conversations with co-streamers around, you guys need to stop talking during these ad breaks, or do something where whenever you have a sponsored element, you need to like make sure that it's visible, because the challenge right now is, hey, why should I watch the main broadcast if I can get a fairly ad-free viewing experience through a co-streamer?
Yeah.
Like,
not
just
even
sub to their
that.
stream, and then like you don't have to listen to the ads for the most part.
Not even that, but also, I mean, co-streaming is just like the broadcast plus the content creator you want to tune into, right?
Yeah.
So it just is a better product.
Yeah, we're going to need all 200 people watching on Twitch and however many are on YouTube to be chill and not go to Forbes or Bloomberg like Travis was talking about.
I mean, that's
and tell me what's
honestly
going
like
on.
what a lot of this stuff works on, right? It's like we are just talking openly about something that I think is kind of hush-hush behind the scenes.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean,
you never know. These
every-
conversations could be happening too, and that could be why, if look at LEC for example. By the way, the ads are annoying. I get that, but they are vital to the ecosystem and for the profitability of this product. So for everybody that like has ad blocker and is annoyed by the ads, I mean, check out what LEC was doing, where they're putting ads like at different times in the show. I don't know if anyone was noticing that, but LEC's been kind of experimenting and playing around with where they're placing their ads so that it's not just between games when everyone's probably tuning out anyway. It's more like desk will have a segment and then there'll be an ad and then it'll go to game, right? So that way it's like you're trying to capture people's attention more and put the ads more directly in front of them, which again is annoying for a viewer, but it's important for the product to exist. So just ignoring the ads or like using the co-streamers that then don't watch them, I do see why that's very harmful for a league, and I wouldn't be surprised if these conversations are already happening.
I mean, so my solution to this, and I've had this discussion a lot, and I love the Spawn versus Reddit video because, the co-streaming bad, lane swap's good. Now everyone's like way more on board because Spawn said it, and not just me. So, he carries a lot of more weight. So I was really put in my place from that one. But no, I mean, my solution to this is just endemics versus non-endemics. Give the non-endemics rights to co-stream. If you are endemic, like, I don't get why Riot let the endemic people get the rights to co-stream and didn't just pay those people what they're worth to put on the broadcast. Again, like if they gave
Because they can't
a new
afford to.
beach,
Cubby, like I've seen other people talk about this. How much do you
Yes.
think they'd have to pay right now, Cadril, to stop doing his stream and be on their broadcast instead?
give the man a beachfront property every weekend.
I feel like they could not afford Cadril. Like,
well, I mean that again is a problem with their own creation, right? Like I can't.
I also think
There's
like
so
in a
much
lot of, I also think in a lot of cases, like you don't, like the reason people tune in to like the sneaky Meteos double lift streams when they happen is that they like Meteos being like come shot and 5 or whatever, like they like
You're not wrong.
the stuff. It is something that they could not put on the broadcast. Whenever the Meteos that you see on those streams is not the Meteos that you see during the dive. These are very different people. And
yeah,
and so I don't think that you can even get like people tune into Cadril because he sits up in his seat on his feet and starts screaming and calling somebody a rat. How would that get integrated into the broadcast?
Yeah, I think the bigger thing is that they just give it for free. Like if you explain what co-streaming is, I think we've had this conversation on the stream on like Hotline League before. If you explain to like an endemic sports broadcasting company what broadcasting rights look like in League of Legends, they would think you're insane. You're just giving away broadcast rights for free to somebody who is getting more views than your product. Like, why aren't you charging this person? Like, clearly it's financially incentivized for them to buy the product from you and buy the rights to stream it, but they just give it out.
Yeah.
Because it didn't start like that, right? I mean, this is the challenge for Riot is originally it was like, oh yeah, we can get these, we'll stream to 100K and then like double lift we'll get like 500 or we'll get 5K.
Yeah, 5K.
Or maybe even 10. And then like, a couple other people. And so it was thought to be additive or whatever. Now, yes, I definitely agree that like but the Cadrils, here's the other thing though. So if you're gonna sell, let's say Riot was like, okay, we're gonna charge Cadril for the rights to co-stream LEC. Cadril then needs to go out and sell his broadcast to be able to make sure that he's profiting despite the cost. So now you end up in a weird situation. What?
Not really. You just take 15 to 20% of like whatever he makes during those hours. Like obviously he can sell more. Like you have the right to do that. You have the right to do that as a business, but if you're streaming the product itself, then yeah, just take a percentage off the top.
I mean, it's very difficult to track percentage of subs based off of when people are subbing.
Well, not really. Like again, I have to send in the past when I've gotten co-streaming rights for CLOL, I had to send a screenshot of my data, like my Twitch data.
Yeah, they give you a full report after each stream.
Yeah, they give you a full report.
But they give it for the full broadcast. And so let's say he streams for 8 hours and he was co-streaming for 4 of it.
There is a minute by minute. Yeah.
What's that?
There is like a minute by minute, hour by hour.
Let me look in my analytics because I don't think that
I have Streamlabs
subs. I don't think there's
even if
subs.
It's difficult. This is the job of people in I don't know if it's marketing, business development. There we go, business development to like come up with solutions for this. Even if it's difficult to get the data is there. So I don't think difficulty of getting the data should detract from the possibility of it happening and the fact that it is crazy. It's good for the co-streamers. Like I have nothing against Cadrel, but like it's crazy the fact that he is given a free product through which to make so much money off of.
I did find you can see where the subs occur in a broadcast. That was fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's really hard to start demanding that you get a rake of people's subs.
They should have done this from the start.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even think even from the start you could have done that. Like, dude, nobody would have. Nobody would have. Look, we're now in this future world 5 years from now. Nobody would have been like if Riot had gone to all these guys and said, yeah, you can co-stream my league, where we're going to take 50% or 10% of your sub revenue or 15% of your sub revenue. First off, I'm not sure if 10 to 15% of anybody's sub revenue is going to be like enough for Riot to feel like they're making a ton of money off of this stuff or even like a relevant amount of money.
It's true, but it's still worth for the creator. Like, again, this is personal for me now too. I was given co-streaming rights for NACL. And shout out to Riot, because I was told, like, I co-streamed one day, and then Riot didn't realize that I was given perms. They had a discussion about it, and I actually got permission to co-stream it. So thank you, Riot and Whooply, on that. That's really big for me. But, like, obviously, I'm a smaller viewer. But just think of, like, Los Ratones and everything that's been going on about content. What kind of bump do you see when these guys are officially competing in a league or covering an official Riot product, compared to what they usually get? I think that bump is much greater than 10%. And so for me, giving back that 10% is actually quite worth it to get access to better content that people are more likely to actually be tuning into. And I have no choice but to say yes to that opportunity because like I'm not seeing the same amount of time in broadcast days that I did in the past. And so for the days that I'm not on, that is the most value that I can get for myself and building my brand, which Riot values, right?
Yeah, but with all due respect, you are not in the same.
Small. I know.
It's not Cadrel. Like when we're talking about this stuff, we're talking about Cadrel. All right, we're talking about Dom, but we're talking about these guys. Bye.
What's the difference of Cadrel? Like, I think for him being that much bigger, like I saw like a 20 to 40% bump in co-streaming. I feel like him being bigger, he still sees like a 10, 15, 20% bump in activity. I guarantee it compared to those streams, compared to just one he is starting himself on and covering whatever Cadrel wants to cover for the day. I think that he is still most associated with like big Riot products. So again, like for him, for Dom, for Yamato, taking 10% off the top to give them access to really, really effing good content for them and everyone else, having these extraordinarily intelligent people that are super invested about the game, like have a history of covering this, to give them access to do that, I feel like it's very much worth it.
Let's do a scenario here. How much? Just give me a ballpark. Let's just give a whatever. Throw out a number on how much money you think Cadrel. What the 100% number is for Cadrel, and then let's take 10% of that. So what do we think? Cadrel makes like $1 million a year off of just from subs and Twitch ads from streaming the stuff. 2 million.
He's like a top 5 streamer on Twitch now, man. Like, I mean, for him specifically, I would go up to like, I think he's like 2.5 to like 3 or 4 like in a year. I mean, again, he was doing numbers like over first stand that were close to Kai. I think it was second to Kai Cenat like in the month of February.
Yeah. I remember we talked about that. Yeah.
And he also, majority of his content that he streams is Riot product. He will do his own streams too. So like that will, like, you're not going to take 10% off of everything he does, obviously, but yeah, I would imagine it would be in like the 1 to 2 million for just what he does for Riot stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's north.
Could be.
Okay, so let's say, is it worth? So let's say he's making 1 to 2 million. Let's be conservative. He's making 1 to 2 million from Riot.
Let's call
stuff.
it 2. Yeah.
Let's say 2.
Oh, from Riot stuff? From Riot stuff? Let's call it like 1.5.
Okay. Let's say
and
2
that doesn't
for
include
East.
Los Ratones. Just the official co-streams, right?
For official co-streaming. So let's say Cadrill's making 2 million. Riot's going to be like, you need to give us 200,000.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think they are paying their broadcast talent? Like in total, like for across all the LEC broadcast talent, I bet you they spend probably $600,000 a year paying those guys, and that includes like all the additional things that they need to do to pay the stuff. So like, I just mean that like I don't actually think
there's other revenue streams as well, you know. So it's not like just going to cover everything.
I just don't think $200,000. Like, what's the budget? Okay, I just watched this LEC music video. It was like pretty intense. I bet you they spent like $50,000 on that video, at least.
They like don't they have a contract signed to produce 1 song a year with the label? By the way,
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's the case. Yeah,
but whatever. So like they produce this music video. Like I just like, to all of us and to a lot of people watching this, they're sitting here being like, wow, $200,000, that's so much money. When you're talking about the millions and millions and millions of dollars that this company is pouring into the esports stuff, I don't actually think that like $200,000 is that significant. And I'm not saying that maybe they shouldn't do that. I'm just sort of like, I don't even know, like that does not, for instance, solve a lot of these other problems that we have, right? Like, yeah,
sure.
It's principle.
It's a drop in the bucket, but
it's principle and precedent. And keep in mind that like these broadcasts, like I mean, it's getting narrowed, right? Like, everything. I mean, there were giant layoffs like last year, right? LPL English gone. No LTA South official English broadcast. I think that taking some money from the co-streamers in these leagues might actually help support a better product for them to have, right? I like co-streamers, like when I get to comment on what's going on the broadcast. I don't like just the muted, just them. I feel like that's worse content overall. I like the back and forth. So again, if you were upping the quality of the broadcast using money that co-streamers are making to give them a better product, like this should be a circular win for everyone, right?
I just don't think you can up the quality of the broadcast with $200,000.
I think that you for sure can.
I don't think it matters if that money directly is the cause for an increase. I think that Riot needs to be looking at all avenues for business development for the product.
Yeah.
And this is an avenue that I'm surprised hasn't been explored. And again, it's not even saying like I think they 100% should do this. I think that it's just shocking that they just give it away. That's more.
Well, we don't know. I'm sure people behind the scenes have talked about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
again, give it away to non-endemics. Endemics, I don't get why they get it for free. I think endemics, the crossover of the likeliness of watching the main broadcast is so much higher than if you're going to let like Pokimane co-stream LTA North, right? So I feel like that's where my disconnect is.
Yeah. I know this is very inside baseball, so we should probably move on. But Khajiit, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here?
Yeah, let me shout out TL for making a better Jubilee video than Jubilee has ever made. Shout out Book Chat. Now it's been a couple months since the new Sanderson book came back, so Sanderson Fever is starting to end. It's getting more, it's getting better. And then shout out to Best of Ones. I'm a very casual watcher, so I love just watching Best of Ones. They're kind of sick.
Best of Ones are sick, but now you're gonna get screamed at in my YouTube comments. Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
See you.
There you go, Travis. I was good. I didn't mention the BAMTech deal during that entire thing.
That's good.
We didn't mention the Riot's platform either, which I'm blanking on. We're good.
Yeah. All right. Whatever. Let's move on to the next caller.
Got it.
I just looked at Book Chat because I haven't looked at it in a while, and I see people in there literally quoting stuff from the Ars Arcanum or whatever, the Brandon Sanderson Word of Brandon thing. That's very funny. Free Mars, I think I got you, but just in case. And Fishy, thank you for the 23 months. Sadly, I don't think I'll be at DreamHack this year, but hope you're doing well. And then I think Free Mars hit both Twitch and YouTube. That's very generous of them. Thank you. Looks like we got our next caller here, Icebreaker. Icebreaker, where are you calling from?
Calling from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Indianapolis, Indiana. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so this is kind of a games take, but more of just like a best of one schedule take. I think 100 Thieves have an interesting schedule with a lot of upside for them. In week 1, they're going to open by playing C9, and then on Sunday they play TL, and then next Saturday, the following week, they play FlyQuest. So arguably the 3 hardest games of the split.
Yeah.
All 3 in a row.
I had not noticed that.
Yeah, I only knew about the first 2, and then I looked on the website and saw that, in fact, it was all 3 in a row. But I think this 100 Thieves team is a team that thrives in a little bit of chaos, and I think that the start of the split will have that. And so I think any of those 3 games that they can win are, I would assume that they're even to probably a slight underdog in a lot of people's eyes, even when I don't think necessarily they should be. But I think if they can even take one of those games and win then the last 4, especially after players will have settled in, to have all of your easier games, after you've already gotten kind of your stage nerves for the start of the split out of the way. Like if they throw against C9 on some fight, I think they're a team that'll just be able to go next and recover, and I think that will allow them to get a really good seed for the group play.
I, just as a brief aside, wanted to point out to everybody, because I had forgotten about it until I was on the schedule just now, that the final match of best of ones of the first part of the split is going to be taking place on a Monday, because they need to do 7 days, and so it'll be Monday the 21st.
Yep.
So
it's just LEC pulled. It's fine.
Yeah, it's Monday because then it's the same as the LEC schedule, so they can roll over. But then also Fridays, you just can't advertise it, right? Like you have to advertise it the week before that, hey, tune in Friday. But if it's on a Monday,
I think it's
then on the Saturday, Sunday, you can be talking about it and be like, yeah, check it out on Monday.
I suspect it's because Valorant has the studio on Friday.
Little column A, little column B, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe.
In terms of the schedule,
let's get back to the 100 Thieves take.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because I'm kind of curious how it changes with best of ones, but usually teams will not scrim you if it's a week or 2 weeks out before they play you. So like when I think of the schedule, I'm kind of curious. Like obviously 100 Thieves, I mean, they're, for me, clearly a top 4 team. I think top 4 is pretty close. If they can get any wins or losses off this team, I wouldn't be super surprised. I think that Bwipo just did an interview where he was talking pretty highly about C9, 100 Thieves, and even TL. For me, what it means for 100 Thieves is that after they play those games, they get really good scrims for a good chunk of time, right? So I feel like that's the biggest win. I'm just kind of curious to see what form everyone is in early on. I guess a part of your hypothesis is that you might be catching a couple of these teams off form. Wouldn't that apply to 100 Thieves as well?
I think so, but also, like, I remember from last year, this 100 Thieves team came out in that double round robin best of ones and was able to surprise a lot of teams. So even if necessarily that surprise factor isn't there, I think that this team just is, good at playing in the best of one format and, prepping. I think Grayson preps good drafts for, best of one series. So I just think that, especially with, maybe coming into a new patch, or obviously not a new patch, but like, the first time they're playing stage games on it, I wouldn't be surprised if, he's able to cook up something that kind of lets them just win in draft for, everyone to complain about for the next week. But that's kind of where
I do agree with what you're saying, because Cubby, you're right that like 100 Thieves might be, caught off guard, or it's like the beginning of the split, somebody's out of shape or something like that. The other teams can be too. Mm-hmm. But I do think you get the most variance at the beginning of a split in terms of teams losing games you wouldn't expect them to lose or whatever. Like I think usually over the course of the split, you get to a point where it's like, okay, these are the best teams, and it's been carried out. So I do think that there is something to, let's get these guys out of the way first. My biggest concern is like if they don't do well, you could end up with a mental boom, right? Like they go 0-3. They're going to need to really get rallied to get the stuff around,
I actually have a hot take. I don't know, Cubby, if you agree with me. I actually think that getting second or third seed is arguably better given the spread of power in our league, because the way it goes is first seed gets fourth seed in their group, fifth seed, and eighth seed. And I think the difference between the fifth seed power level and the sixth, seventh, eighth, who I all think sixth, seventh, eighth are going to be more around the same level, could be drastic. So like I think I'd rather be like I think we have 4 good teams. So whether you're first seed, second, third, or fourth, I think you're gonna have one other good team in your group with you. And then I think I'd be more afraid of having that 5th seed team in my group than the 6th and 7th seed. I don't think getting the 8th seed is a big enough buff, right? So I actually think that arguably it's better to be second, third.
I will say that I'm curious to see how Shopify Rebellion looks this year.
Yep, that's my 5th seed one.
Well, see, my 5th seed is still Dignitas, who like out of the bottom 4, I by far have the most faith in Dignitas in that team. So I guess I'm kind of looking at this like, what's the difference between like Dig and then maybe SR, given where a lot of these teams like have them power ranked, right?
Sure.
So I guess for me, that's like a let's wait and see. But it's an interesting hypothesis. I thought that it was a snake draft, not just like the seeds get dropped in. I thought the teams get to pick, but
no, it's a snake draft by seeding.
By seeds. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
By seeds. So
the
it's
picking,
like
I think, happens in
first seed, then goes to the other group, second, third, then back to you, fourth, fifth, and back to the other.
By the way, I mean, I know this is like another format note, but if we like the fact that we're picking opponents in split 3, why not pick the groups? I actually really like that feature. Like if a team...
That would be cool, yeah.
I feel like that creates the same storylines that you're looking for with picking the teams. It's a perfect opportunity to do so. So like when I heard snake draft, I was kind of excited that like I thought the teams would pick each other. I'm kind of bummed out to hear like it's just official seeds. I feel like that creates good content.
I wonder why they didn't do picking for this. I haven't asked Mark.
Yeah, again, like split 3, you have picking. I feel like this makes way more sense. Like traditionally, it's been used to like really well here.
Picking aside, I know some people have critiqued why aren't we just doing what LEC is doing, where it's a double round robin best of 3s? Why even have this first 3 weeks? The pro that I see for it is that we haven't seen every team play each other yet. So it's actually really difficult to seed and like rank teams going into this split, because split 1 we had teams on opposite sides of a bracket that never actually got to go against each other, and we haven't completed like a round robin yet. So just doing best of 1s, it's not an elegant solution necessarily, but for viewership, best of 1s can be a buff for that. So I think that you get like a slight bump there at the beginning of the split, but then also we at least get to see every team play each other before we seed them and then put them into different groups.
Well, you can't do a full, like they have 3 weeks to do this. So I don't think you can do a full round robin best of 3s in 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, no.
But theoretically,
cool. Theoretically, you could have done, instead of the first half be single round robin and then the second half be groups, you could have just done like a double round robin, kind of like what LEC is doing. Actually, I think LEC is single round robin best of 3s. Now that I think about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't
mind the format.
I don't think you could have done a double round robin best of 3. I guess maybe.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure LEC is actually just single round robin. I'm just talking about
I like this format. I wish that the teams got to pick who's in their group or who's in the other group. I think that's fun, but I actually like this format. I think it works.
Yeah. No, I think format's good. Back to the 100 Thieves stuff, though. Yeah,
Curious hypothesis.
I'm really glad that you brought this up. I do think it is an interesting narrative that more people should be talking about with regards to 100 Thieves going into the split, because they are, from what I can tell, I'm trying to see if I notice any other teams that have as hard of a schedule as they do in the first 3 days. And it doesn't look like there's any. TL. Yeah, see, like TL has to face Fly and 100T in their first week, but then they face Dig the next week. So, like, all the teams, for the most part, seem to have like a soft opponent, and unless you're 100 Thieves. So they definitely low-rolled the first three days. So they definitely have the most challenging start to the split, assuming all the teams are playing up to form, which we don't know if they're going to be. So
I will say, again, from just team and scrim schedule, I actually kind of like this for 100 Thieves, because after the first week, you're going to get good scrims leading up to the best of 3s, where I feel like best of threes is where you really figure out if the better team wins or not, just having, more games, less variance, right? So I like that aspect for the Thieves. I also somewhat agree with your hypothesis that this team thrives in chaos, being one of the bloodier teams across the world, which they're proud of. So that's a lot more likely to come early in the split. But I feel like part of your hypothesis kind of counts them out as a top team, just given that they can't beat these teams like on a normal day, which I think the exciting part about 100 Thieves coming into this split is that I do think the 100 Thieves could be a top team this split. And I don't really feel like they've had that narrative before. So I will push back against it just because if people actually believe that 100 Thieves are going to compete at the highest level, you can't really look at the schedule and be like, oh, I think this is the best opportunity for them to win games, like based on how they play. Obviously, that's part of the analytics of it. But I think the real hope for 100 Thieves this split is that they actually can compete with anyone on any given day. And they showed signs of at least getting closer to that last split. So, I'm actually hopeful that 100 Thieves can really push the best of the teams and kind of break away from that top four and maybe find a top two, which they've really haven't done yet as a squad. So, yeah.
Thanks so much for the call, Icebreaker. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah. This didn't get pulled as a take, so I'll just shout it out here. We were talking about Split 1 takes earlier. NACL Split 1 has started as of this last week. It's Wednesday to Friday. Cubby's been casting some of the games, but it's been super fun to watch. Breezy had an incredible Recon game. CCG, I think, might be my team that I'm going to root for this year.
Ooh.
I don't want to necessarily pick one of the top dogs, but they look like an interesting mid-table team to cheer for. And I heard specifically tomorrow, since Double Lift made his OQ team, I heard that specifically tomorrow, Bjergsen might make an announcement about forming an OQ team for next year. And on that note, I'll talk to you all later. Good night.
Tomorrow being April 1st. Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you later.
Yeah, April Fool's Day, yeah.
Interesting.
Dude, I love it, though. An NACL caller who actually has a favorite team they're picking. That's cool. I like that.
Don't encourage them. All right. We're going to take a quick break to shout out our sponsor, NZXT. NZXT makes amazing products. You can go over to nzxt.co/Travis. There's a link in the description of this content, and also Numi will be sharing it in the chats right now. But again, it's co, not com, nzxt.co/Travis. And you'll see our full setup of all the different stuff that we use. It's been really fantastic to partner with them throughout the year. They always have really cool promotions that are going on. I believe they still have a Caseathon going on, which is really neat. It goes through April 4th. So this is the final week for it, which was their event that featured case deep dives, expert talks, giveaways, and exclusive discounts. They've been posting about that over on their social media with hashtag Caseathon. So you can follow their social media for more information about all that stuff. I think that they're doing broadcasts, I want to say on Fridays at twitch.tv/NZXT. You just go follow their Twitch channel and tell them that I sent you. Actually, that'd be really helpful. I'm sure they'd be excited to see some of y'all over there. So shout out to NZXT for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate them. Cool that they're doing Caseathon right now. And yeah, go check out their products. When you do use the link to purchase something from them, also make sure you use the code Travis5, which will ensure that you get a 5% discount on your purchase. So thank you so much to NZXT again for the sponsorship. All right. We've got 2 more callers to go. It's going to be a bit of a shorter episode tonight, but Cubby is off to go grab one of them. No new subs over on YouTube, but I do want to say thank you to everybody who has, I shouldn't say subs, but memberships over on YouTube. On Twitch, thank you to Gaiden TV for 73 months. Some of you guys are crazy. It's wild to me how high some of these numbers get, and I really do appreciate it. So thanks everyone who's been subbed for the better part of a decade in some cases, which is just wild. So, hey, looks like Charlie is here. Charlie, where are you calling from?
Los Angeles, California.
Los Angeles, California.
Nepo caller.
Yeah, I think I know which Charlie this is based on his voice. What, Charlie, are you currently involved in the esports industry?
No.
Okay, formerly of the esports industry, we should say. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So the The LC or LT, not LCS, LTA teaser was kind of aggressively low budget this time. It was not very hype.
Yeah.
I still don't understand the weird obsession with like catchphrases now. It's a bit odd. But yeah, I wasn't very impressed with this one. I think they need to kind of go back to what worked back in the past.
Yeah, so
with like more features.
If y'all haven't seen it yet, this is a piece where you just have a bunch of players looking at the screen against a white backdrop saying what fuels them. So it's things like haters or what was snipers? He said the shorties.
Shotties.
Yes.
Shotties.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. That was the most interesting part of the thing. But yeah, so there's all like what fuels you, and then all of them are saying it. It kind of felt like a Gatorade ad from the 90s. Look, it's hard for me to be critical of this teaser because they used to do only 2 a year, and now they have to do a third while their budget has been seemingly decreased. So I'm kind of just happy we have anything. Behind the scenes, I guess I could say, I don't know if Riot would be happy with me saying this, but whatever. I was told at the beginning of Split 1 that there would be no media day or asset day. For those of you that don't know, ahead of the split, usually like a week or two beforehand, they bring all the players in, they do photos, they do all this stuff, and they usually film this video. And that's whenever they let media like myself come in and film some stuff. They usually do surprise tests around that. So I was told at that asset day or media day, they've called it both things, that they would not be doing one for Split 2. And then somewhat last minute, I found out that they were doing one, and they invited me in. And it seems like this was a sort of, hey, we should probably do something for the kickoff of Split 2, which, like, of course they should have. But it's difficult for me to be critical of it, knowing that, like, they've had to kind of scrap this together. And I guess the idea could be you could be critical of either the team that had to scrap it together, or you could be critical of Riot Games for pitting everybody in a position where they have to scrap it together. But that's kind of where my head is at.
I will say,
go with the latter, Travis.
Yeah. I did have a bit of this conversation with Matt earlier today, and like we pulled up some of the old ones from like 2017, and like they were also pretty small scale, but they like the what fuels you is actually like an interesting tagline, but it was like so weirdly scripted, and like they could have like actually just asked players like the question and gotten like thoughtful answers, and instead they went with this, which I would have preferred to like actually hear from players. Like this weird kind of focus on players and trying to make them the centerpiece while also not letting them like voice their actual like opinions and things is a bit odd in my opinion.
You know what? I think that's
Do you want to
fair.
get into that?
Yeah.
Do you want to get into that actually a little bit, Charlie? Because I know that you have obviously your background, you have unique your background in this, but also talking about like, because you were kind of talking about selling the players versus selling the teams, and had the hypothesis on that.
Well, I mean, I think I used an NBA reference, right? Where it's like the NBA is in this weird situation where a lot of their huge stars are starting to age out, and the way they're kind of having to combat that is by focusing on teams more and less on players. And then once you bring the teams to the forefront, the players kind of come from that, which Riot has kind of aggressively gone against throughout a lot of the history. They just haven't focused on teams as much while trying to focus on players, which is a very interesting decision in my opinion.
So for me, like part of that decision made a lot of sense in the past with the amount of turnover that the leagues see. But I thought for this year, actually, with that hypothesis, I mean, the top 4 teams that we have, TL, no changes. They added the coach. FlyQuest, no changes. One of their coaches left and went Shopify Rebellion and Demonte. 100 Thieves, 1 change. And C9, a couple of people that returned, which were legacy C9 players, right? And then they got Loki. So if there was any split to actually really sell that, this was the year. And I feel like that was an opportunity for Riot. I think my thing about the promo, obviously, it does seem low budget. I think the team, like given what they had, I thought it was fine. But I think that when you have every player like give their little tidbit or like catch line, it feels like that you're going to lose the value of that. And I miss when this was like truly aspirational and inspirational. I think the piece of content that resonated with me the most was actually the last LCS finals trailer, where like you have Core JJ and Impact saying like, what's better than this? Like, or like you have Bwipo talking about what it would mean for him to like actually win, right? And obviously that is delivering on something at the end of the split. But I feel like the show, or it's more of a tell, not show for this. And the past teasers was almost a show or setting up or the hype, like, hey, these are the faces, like the places and where we're going to be. Whereas the tell is just kind of like, okay, we're back, and that's fine, right? So I think that's where I would very much agree with you. And I miss when this was more
especially at the
inspirational
start
and
of
aspirational.
especially at the start of the year when there's like the most untold storylines in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
There's a ton to like build off of there. And,
See, I would go in. I somewhat agree with you, and I do like the idea of like, hey, you just let the players say what they're going to say. The challenge here is I do worry that it's difficult to make that look and feel really good low budget. The direction I thought you were going whenever you first started saying is like just let the players talk and say whatever they're going to say was more of a like, hey, let's try to make this less of like a polished hype piece and more like a fun thing. Like I actually think something that Riot did really well last year was that they turned away from the like, we are the best, the players are the best, we're here for competition, everything's amazing, and like they had this kind of like, in my opinion, manufactured brand for the LCS for a while. And then last year they moved to this more authentic thing. Like I thought Talk Your Split, as much of a goofy tagline as it is, that whole campaign ended up being very authentic. And like the opening video felt really authentic and goofy and fun. And like honestly, people are tuning into co-streamers these days because they want goofy and fun. Like they want to feel like entertained. They're not watching gladiatorial combat. They're watching these goofy guys. What somebody I know called them swagless men was the way she described these pro players.
What do you mean, man? Sniper is playing for the shotties. It's what fuels
yes,
them.
exactly.
Amazing.
But she
How's
she
that
said
swagless
she loves
or rizless?
She said she loves watching swagless men play League of Legends competitively, and I'm like, at the end of the day, that is kind of what all of this is. And so I'm not saying that we can't have epic, cool, dramatic videos or whatever, but if you're going to go on a lower budget like this, have it feel more fun. Like have them say, I would have wanted more goofy answers. And in some cases they did. Like there was who was it that said that they're playing because they don't want to go back to school or something, you know, like there were
funny. I think that was Jerry.
Yeah, pretty sure Shade. So I don't have to go to school. Yeah.
The interesting thing with that though is like all of that like interesting like stuff was like saved till it was essentially like an end credit scene for the video where like all the goofy fun stuff was just kind of shoved at the back.
Yeah, I would have rather they done something that felt like it showed more of the personalities of the players and like didn't need to be this condensed, super edited, minute-long thing.
Yeah, again, like they tried to, but when you fit that many players into that super short time frame, it's hard to walk away with like anything that really resonates, right? Because like we're even fishing for references like who said what.
Yeah, I will say I'm not going to speak on the video itself, but the tagline, to echo what you're saying, Charlie, I think it is an interesting tagline to pursue. I know it's not like as flashy as Talk Your Split.
I don't mind it. Like Monster saying family, that's cool, you know?
Yeah, and
like,
if we're being honest about like just the ecosystem as a whole and where the league is and what just happened in the off season, I, as a fan, a longtime fan of this product, I'm actually very interested in the motivations of our players. Like how are they feeling? Like what is fueling them right now, right? I know it's like a catchy tagline of what fuels you, but the underlying message there is like what's keeping you in this, right? Like what's keeping you going? And the human element I actually find very fascinating. But that isn't really conducive to a hype video at the beginning of a split. So I don't think that they were going to like go that direction, but that is the benefit of a tagline like that is it's kind of a northern star to point towards for content to be on like the same tracks throughout a split or throughout a year. And that is an interesting path that I actually am excited as a storyteller and a content creator to go down.
If you use that media day to just sit players down and just let them talk for 90 seconds about what fuels them, why they do this, and then just like use that content throughout the split, like in between games, I would fucking love that. I think that like, for me, again, that's like what really speaks to me, and the stuff I've talked about, like resonating it, like with me. Again, like hearing the players that have done this for a long time talk about what it means to them, or the new players like joining them, talking about what it means to them, that stuff really resonates with me. The tagline definitely has potential to bring that out. And if that is the direction for the split, I'm going to be a huge fan of that. I really will. I just feel like the hype, like this hype piece, it was very clear that it's like lower budget, right? It was a little bit of like a bottle episode, right? Like all shot in one place, like one thing. And for me, they tried to stuff so much in where I didn't walk away with anything really resonating.
I disagree on everything you guys both said. Because I think, okay, here's the thing is guys, it's such like a heavy, like a bunch of marketing people all sat in a room and was like, hey, what's like a phrase that we can use? And like, we'll use what fuels you. And like, oh, here's some like images that sort of associate with that and concepts and stuff. And it's like, it just, to me, that type of stuff feels so inauthentic. Like,
wait, but isn't the what
it depends on the players.
The entire premise of Drive, though, the most loved content series in the LCS?
Like again, like Masu's saying family, like that's very authentic. I mean, these guys they have the opportunity to give authentic answers.
Do you think it's forced, Travis? I think that might be more.
I would agree with you that it's forced, Travis. I would. But
I think that it is. So there's a couple different things here. So one, Drive. I think Drive feels good. Like Drive was never a overarching brand that was sort of put into a bunch of different things. Drive was a isolated series that felt authentic because you were really doing a deep dive into a player's personal life and sharing aspects about them that you didn't know. And in fact, quite frankly, I think that series dropped off over time because it stopped being authentic. It stopped being like the first one I think they ever did was like Sneaky in the C9 house picking up his backpack and stuff. And then we got to a point where it was like Acadian driving a convertible down Malibu, the freeway in Malibu with like a drone over the top of his head. And it's like, this does not feel authentic to me. And you could see the drop off, quite frankly. Like the features team at Riot started, I think, to be like, we want to make art. And so they started doing that at the cost of authenticity. And I think that's what we're talking about here too. To bring it back to the brand, which is like, yes, it does feel forced, but it also feels forced whenever you kind of just want to like broadly apply it to stuff. Like, again, like if they had a series that was I think the phrase is cheesy. There's probably a better one. Like Drive is much better way of doing it. But if you wanted to make a series that was like, we do for a sponsor, Red Bull. Okay. We're going to do the Red Bull, what drives you or what fuels you series. And we're going to like learn from all these players like what actually is motivating them. I think that is really interesting. But just sort of like slapping it up for like this intro thing, and then again to the point that you guys were talking about where you'd like it to be like a split long thing. I'm just like, this is just like when we're talking about things that have driven people away from the space in comparison to what it used to look like. Like Los Ratones is not running around being like, our tagline for the split is like, tying up loose ends, you know, or something like that. Like it's not
one more run.
Yeah, one more run. Like it's not. It's like people just tune in because they want cool, fun, entertaining, cool shit. And like when people start with these taglines first and then extrapolate content out from them, I think that's where you end up with stuff that does not resonate. And I felt similarly about the opening sequence for the LTA.
Now, Cubby, I'll let you hop in first, but first I want to ask Travis a question here. What do you think about LEC's tagline? Give me chaos.
Why is that not the LPL's tagline? I feel like it's an old LPL tagline.
What do I think about? So I didn't know that was the tagline. Give me chaos.
They did a whole music video and everything. The music video.
I watched the music video.
The song's awesome, dude.
I watched the music
Chaos
video.
Coming?
I watched the music video. I did not realize that was the like tagline.
That's their tagline.
Yeah.
So pretty much every region gets a tagline. LTA is one of the ones that has not always done it. Like Talk Your Split. I guess in the past they did like Feeling Fresh. Do you remember LCS Fresh? Like that tagline?
Yeah, they've always tried to have a tagline. Some have been more popular than not. I'm actually kind of with Travis that the taglines do feel forced. Sometimes you can get ones that resonate with you.
Take notes.
So I am kind of with you on that, Travis.
Take notes. What was the other MSI one that everyone memed on?
Dude, the MSI ones, man.
Become the unknown.
The MSI
ones are
Dude, Take Notes still gets memed today.
The MSI ones are usually the most egregious.
Yeah.
But yeah, so give me chaos. That's the term.
Give me chaos. Yeah,
it's terrible.
I like it. I think because it feels authentic to the region, because the region is chaotic as hell.
Yeah,
dude.
I like it more than what feels you, because it doesn't sound as much like a fucking Nike or Gatorade slogan.
Yeah,
and I like it more because you can do more stuff with it visually, and you're not it can be a little more authentic, like the meme of the of the Jack meme of him like with the flames or whatever for the C9 subreddit and all that stuff. Like that it feels more of like a meme or whatever. I'm not like a huge fan of taglines, but if you were gonna be like, let's make one, I think give me chaos is something more interesting than the what feels you thing.
Also, I'm seeing a lot of people in chat saying they liked LCS Fresh. I liked LCS Fresh too. I know a lot of people meme on that one and hated that one. I thought that one was fun because they also did a music video for that one, if you remember, like the Feelin' Fresh. I have that gif of Rafa with the ukulele on the beach. Just like,
that was fun.
Yeah, that was a good vibe, It was great summer content.
I'm with Travis about the forced taglines. I still think that if they do run with this and give me a lot of content just about like what actually drives the players, I would find value in that personally. So I always like hearing like what drives people and if it is authentic. So I think there's potential there. But I agree with you, Travis, that overarching, like why every split do we have a new tagline to try and force stuff into that? Because it kind of prevents creativity from like actually telling the story of what does happen throughout the split. Again, that's why the summer finals video that I keep on referencing from last year really resonated with me, because it felt like it really spoke to that final and that moment and those players playing in that condition. And it was so fucking good because of that. So
here's what I would say. The YouTube, actually, this is the best way I can try to think about it. I'll try to finish half this. LEC makes these music videos. These music videos seem like a fun thing that you could go find on a YouTube channel, right? Like it's not crazy to hear that you would find like somebody doing some funny YouTube video or music video as like a sketch thing, and they do this as their YouTube channel or whatever. That feels authentic to like internet humor and internet culture. Whereas this, like what Fuels You ad, is not something that you would just like it feels corporate. It feels like something that a brand or a company would put out to promote
100%.
a product.
Yeah.
And like I would much rather they have come up with not like the old cringe office skits that they did before, but something that does feel.
Oh, those were awesome too.
No, those fucking sucked, Kangas. Like
someone didn't watch SportsCenter growing up.
No, like no. Here's the thing: nobody fucking watched SportsCenter growing up, Cubby. Like we make internet content for the internet. Like people that are in Twitch chat are like posting memes and joke shit and spamming emotes and calling each other rats and all this stuff. Like we are not SportsCenter. And we are not The Office, and we're not SNL. And like for a long time, LCS had a whole team that was creating only this content. And I was always very frustrated because I thought this content was not particularly good. Like it was great for boomers. And Cubby, I know that you are a Zoomer, but in many ways you are more of a boomer than I am.
I'm a boomer.
And and so like those people would like it, and the people that were making this content at Riot who were boomers were like, this is the greatest shit. Like I could be writing sketch comedy for fucking SNL instead of slumming it at Riot Games with all these nerds. And meanwhile, like LEC would go out and create these like like a bunch of music videos that had great references to the LEC product and to the culture around the LEC. And it felt so much more in line with like internet content, internet culture, all that type of stuff.
I do agree. Like the Vedius skits and like just getting in like the giant suits and stuff. I still remember when Papa Smithy went to LEC for the week and he like got in the Vedius suit. Like that was fun. Yeah, I do agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God. Okay, hang on. I know we're way off topic, but I just want to say something. PP Doc says The Office is the best show of all time. The Office was a decent show. I have grown to fucking hate The Office because in LA, you go on the dating app and like half of the people on those apps, their whole personality is like, I like The Office. You miss every spot shot. You don't take Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott. Like, here's an Office meme. And it's become such a thing where people have just taken The Office and made it their personality. It's just like the most generic thing in the world now. And I'm like, guys, the 2000s are way back there. Go back there. Like, let's get with the times.
Well, I'm getting all the people that have friends quotes still, so I guess we have different circles.
Holy shit, Kangas, you need to lower your age range to like people around your age if you're getting friends
29.
quotes.
I'm about to die any minute, man.
Yeah. Stop looking for the women in their 40s. All right, let's.
How I Met Your Mother.
Friends quotes.
Friends. Yeah.
All right, we've gone completely off topic. Charlie, help us bring it back to your topic.
Oh, I just want to say to kind of round this off, how many weeks until one of the Cloud9 players says a Kia EV9 is what fuels them or drives them or whatever?
None. Yeah. It's coming from Sven.
Week 1? You think week 1 immediately? Yeah, could be.
Sven or Vulcan are for sure referencing that.
Dude, I'm telling you, we got to do this. Is I don't want to like out bits that I'm going to pitch to Riot also, but we got to do a bit where it's like what fuels you, and it's just like Pagoda and Red Bull and like any other sponsors that we have that are things you can put in your mouth.
It would be funny. It would be funny to do. Oh God, I wish I was like 10% more creative and had random budget, was just like
only
very
10%.
Very wealthy. Is I would just because I think 10% would get me there. I wish I could make like also if I didn't care about future, I'd just make sketches and parodies of stuff. Like I'd love to do a what fuels you where I'm asking the pro players and they're like, oh no, I had like taquitos for breakfast this morning or whatever. Like what
taquitos are good.
Rancid food is actually fueling these gamers.
See, this is the real business development that Riot needs. This is how you get those sponsor dollars, is you just throw in a sponsor for what fuels everybody.
Well, this is what I'm saying is a tagline can be, you can like or dislike a tagline, but the benefit of having that Northern Star guiding tagline is that sometimes it can actually spark inspiration and creativity, because then you can come up with this silly content.
Yes, the minimalism argument. Yeah, minimalism.
If you give me constraints, I can actually be more creative under the constraints because I have fewer things that can distract me and pull away from the goal.
I just think part of the reason I ripped it off was because I actually think that Pop Quiz was like the most authentic and like solid content that like Riot has ever made serialized. And there was no like guiding North Star to that. It was just like, here, we're going to showcase the pro players and put them in authentic and fun situations. And I get that you can't make like a hype video that's Pop Quiz, but I just wish that LCS had throughout its entire lifetime done more of that content and less of this Sports Center or hype reel or here's our tagline that we're using as the branding for the split. Like I think the league would be not in a completely healthier place, but would be to keep up with the 10% thing, at least 10% healthier if that had been their content strategy.
I will say in your defense, Travis, for that point exactly, I have had content pieces that I have pitched that I felt very confident would slap. They got turned down because they did not align with like the goal for that split's like vision, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't feel good.
Just make good
ideas
shit
down that you're like, this was an S tier idea in my opinion, and maybe people disagree with that, but like it got turned down because it didn't align.
Was it anything from the Notebook that one night we went to the bar and cooked some stuff up, Kangas?
We did cook up a lot of stuff in the Notebook. Dude, that's always fun. If you're ever in a creative field, go to a bar with your buddies and just write down stuff that you talk about. Fun. Sometimes you get really good nuggets in there.
Damn.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Charlie, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
I was told to shout out my roommate and then happy birthday, Matt. Have a good one, guys.
Who's your roommate? Wait, can you elaborate?
No, it's fine. It's okay. You guys.
That's right, Cubby. You didn't talk about how was your birthday whenever we were talking about stuff from last week or whatever.
It was good. Friday, I wrapped up my NACL broadcast. We had like 8 to 10 people over. I got some pizza and beer. Kangas was nice enough to make a cake.
Yeah.
And another friend brought over some meat and cheese. Very nice of them. And
you never reposted the video. I just realized.
I never got. Oh, it's up.
No. You have to post it, but it's
I don't have it.
You don't have to either.
Yeah, I do. Because
Travis, have you seen the cake bit? Have you ever seen those videos?
Well, I saw the video of Cubby blowing out the candles in one shot, and it was because he used to play trumpet or something? Trombone?
Yeah. No. We do a follow-up bit. I have a string of quote retweets on Twitter of whenever it's my friend's birthday, I bake him a cake, they shove it in my face. It's just like a stupid bit.
Oh, wait, I do remember seeing this from a while ago.
I don't quote retweet the last video. We have deemed that I'm not a part of the Kangas cinematic universe too, so I do need to get access to that video to make sure that I throw it in there. Yeah.
All
right.
Yeah. It was good. Thanks for it was good.
I'm going to move on to the next caller.
Let's do it.
Thank you to Kajit, who says, "I'm sorry, book chat. I didn't know I was summoning the cops." Shot a Tonin for 77 months. That is crazy.
Ooh.
God, sorry I got so pissed off, but God, so many people who think that The Office is just the best. Is just I hate The Office because of it. It's not a bad show. It does not deserve hate, but other people who are obsessed with it have made it's Prison Mike.
By proxy, you don't like it now, yeah.
Eclipse, where are you calling from?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So Impact has been struggling, in my opinion, since Worlds, and I don't feel like it's really stopped. I know they won Split 1, but since Worlds, there's been consistent lane losses, and I think that affects the team as a whole. And also just his ability to play carry picks limits draft. And I think that hurts how you can play around the map and just several other things.
Well, and so is your take that Impact should get benched, or where would you go with this?
I know it's super unrealistic. The dream is if they could somehow pick up Thanatos. I think he provides firepower. That APA is great. I don't have any issues there. Umpty does have his Nocturne and a couple other things that I think he plays fairly well. Nocturne specifically. But there's no Zeus type threat. I'm not saying they need to be as good as Zeus. I'm just saying there's no threat, that kind of threat in the top lane. And I think Thanatos would provide that.
Yeah. I mean, tough to say if they could just pick him up, right?
Yeah.
Because he's currently signed to C9. And I have to imagine C9 would not want to just trade him over, especially if the idea was to swap for Impact.
Eclipse, I think if you ask 90% of TL fans right now, they would probably, if you had to say, hey, you're going to make a change to the team, what are you going to change? I think they'd probably say jungle or mid before Impact. So what has you saying Impact? Is it what you've seen from other teams? Do you feel like these carry top laners are necessary for competing at the highest level? Like why Impact and not the others?
So, I think it would be really hard to see APA expand his champion pool to Galio or Silas or these other picks that are not sustained damage without a threat in the top lane, because your end result is only your AD carry. And I think that's part of what's made HLE look so good, is picking up Zeus instead of Doran. And now you have that good threat in Viper, but now you also have a threat in top and mid. So that allows those Silas, those Gallios, those whatever else you want to throw into that category, because you don't have that need for that second consistent damage dealer in the same way as you would with an Ornn or a Cassante or other things along those lines.
I do think part of why Impact has looked poor on carries lately is because for the last year and a split, Team Liquid has been playing weak side top lane swaps, right? Like Impact has had times in his career where he was like the best gangplank in NA, and would just body people on that pick where he can play jacks, things like that. So part of me thinks that this might be like your take isn't wrong in the sense of can Team Liquid as a team and can Impact as a team adapt over the next 2 splits. If you don't think they can, that would be the basis for the change. But I think the hope for Team Liquid fans is that split 2 is probably going to be rough because Team Liquid's going to have to get their sea legs in a new meta and play a different game than they had been playing before as a team. But if you're going to put faith in somebody, it's hard to argue against Impact as a top laner that you can put your faith into just because of his pedigree and his history. But all that's to say that I do agree he played very poorly on his carries at first stand, right? Like recency bias is definitely against him.
I would like to read. Go ahead, Cubby.
I will say that Worlds, I don't think that he had the Worlds we were hoping for, but some of that was just because he was the MVP of LCS and was playing like an insane form. And then when he went to Worlds, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't like the GOAT top laner that we were kind of hoping that he'd be from LCS, able to compete with almost anyone. So I feel like you can go, Travis. I just want to add this context.
So I would like to read Google's AI overview here of a search that I did. The answer here says Team Liquid player Impact, whose real name is I'm not going to try to pronounce Impact's real name because I can't do it justice, was born on March 7th, 1995, making him 29 years old as of March 23rd, 2025. Now,
it's 30, right?
Yes, he's 30.
Yeah.
Somebody who's born on March 7th, 1995 is 30 as of March 23rd, 2025. So, first off, I just want to say it's impressive that Google's AI is so bad that it cannot do 2025 minus 1995 correctly.
Oh, wait, it says 29? Wait, that's hilarious.
It says 29 years old, yes. Yes. Team Liquid, if you go Google search Impact Team Liquid age, which is what I did, and it will tell you straight up, well, he was born on March 7th, 1995. So that makes him 29 years old as of March 23rd, 2025.
I was born 95 and I'm 29, but my birthday's coming up. So that was quick math for me. But
yes. But it's great that Google tries to show you how that would work, and it's just completely wrong. And it's insane to me that AI is this bad, and that everybody's like, AI is the future. Anyway, so he is 30, and so as a 30-year-old, we should expect him, especially because he's recently 30. I think when he hits the Rift on Saturday, he's just going to turn to dust. That's my biggest concern for Team Liquid, because 30-year-olds, that's rough. Anyway, so first off, we just learned Impact is like a month or two older than you. That's funny.
Yeah.
So where are we at? Yeah, I guess I don't think that Impact is necessarily the problem with Team Liquid. I don't know if they have a problem. I do think a lot of people call it umpty, but I think we've talked about for a while that it is more holistic. But again, we're criticizing the team that is like best in the league right now, so it's hard to be super critical of them outside of their international performances. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's Impact that I would target.
For me, Impact he's a player for me where he has earned the right to play for as long as he wants. And until he can't play anymore, I just, like, whatever team he's on, I feel like he's just so valuable to what he brings, especially outside the Rift. On top of inside, I still think so highly of Impact. I did a series with Razvan, where we went over like all the top laners before Split 1. We're trying to do something for Split 2, but like going through his tape was such a joy, honestly, from last year. Like, this guy's still so good at the game. I know that he didn't play to the level that he wants, but the level that this guy hits quite consistently is just really stupid. Like, stupid good. So I would still put all my chips on the Impact boat whenever. I think this guy's just earned the right to play the game for as long as he wants.
Eclipse, are you a diehard Team Liquid fan?
Yeah. I'm I think my issue is I feel like with the current iteration, you still expect them to do well domestically. I mean, I know as part of my take that I wrote was I could see them finishing 4th or 5th. I think, if playoffs work out so that, you know what I mean, there's a way you get knocked out early, it can happen, right? Does that mean I think they're the 5th best team in the league? No. I think they're definitively in the top 4 as far as just how the team plays the game. I just think the way that the team and the players are structured, that if you want to have the hope of international success, because I feel like that's what, if you're looking at them that you want, if that's what you want, I feel like it is a limiting factor that stops you from being able to achieve that.
So you're also looking past just domestic performance and towards international events.
Yeah, I feel like it carries enough weight, and that, for better or worse, it has been emphasized heavily. And I think that's most people's gauge for it's like G2. They replaced 2 players that were really good. Yike went over to KC, he's still doing great, right? But their goal is international success. They know they can win the league with those players, and I'm sure TL could do it again. The problem is I don't think with this iteration of the roster, they have the firepower to go deep into an international tournament.
That take I agree more with, because I have a harder time defending Impact in international events.
I just don't like
I do domestically.
What top laner is better? Like, do you want this team to get Surdy? Because for me, I think the good part about TL. Surdy's another option. I think the good. Yeah, really. I think the cool part about this team is that, like, the question mark when this team was put together is who's going to be the big carry, because Impact and APA never really fit that mold in past teams. I think Impact, he deserves way more credit for carries throughout his career than what he actually gets. But the hope was that Yawn would really be the carry, and I think that Yawn has eclipsed any expectation for what he'd be, which is, for me, is a huge win for TL with the setup they have, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think Yawn's exceptional. I do think Yawn can go toe to toe with just about any international AD carry. I mean, he's extremely good. Yeah. I just think there's too many ways versus solid international teams. If you say this one player can carry this team to victory, and you say this is their carry condition, and this is your only true hyper carry condition, to say, okay, well, we're going to base our plan to neutralize him. We don't even have to put him super far behind. But if I'm a top tier LCK or LPL team, as long as I don't give him an advantage, and even if it's just playing away from him, as long as I don't give him something, if there's no other threat, it's going to be really hard to. If there's no other threat, you can minimize the one specific one. And that's why I think there just needs to be, even if it's Sniper, which I know sounds insane, and Impact is a better top laner than Sniper. But Sniper at least gives you some threat. He's shown glimpses of it, and there's growth, right? He's 18, 19 years old, maybe now. I just think you need threat, even if you downgraded in terms of overall quality, even if it's just for draft purposes, so APA can't be so harshly target banned, to give something there, some threat.
The one point I'll agree on the 2 callers that have called in today questioning top laners of the top teams in the league in Blippo and Impact is that there is a real case with those teams. Like when they were originally put together, APA and Yawn and Masu and Busio were the young players you have to develop. I think that you could absolutely make a case that if you're going to keep most of the team together, you could roll the dice on a top laner you really like, just given the experience that those guys have. I still would not make the change for either, but I do agree with that case. I still think the mix of having a rookie or 2 on the roster can be really valuable for a team because, again, kind of like what Kangas was talking about, you have to be creative with the constraints. Rookies aren't going to be able to be as versatile in the game, and you might have to adapt your style around that in order to figure out how to win. Sometimes that can be really refreshing for players. It's been a pretty winning formula with teams put together at tier 1 and tier 2. So I feel like both callers, that's the takeaway I'd have from these calls is that, but I still don't think I'd make any changes. I still feel like both players being questioned are very talented and have kind of earned the right to have downtimes because the ups that we've seen when it counts, they have performed throughout their career, right? Even if Impact didn't play as well as he wanted to at the last 2 internationals. So,
yeah, and the best kind of comfort I can give you, caller, is that if you don't believe Impact has the firepower right now, there is a chance come Worlds that he's gotten that carry practice back, just because they're not going to be playing weak side perma Cassante every game, right? So it might fix itself. I'm in agreement with Cubby. I wouldn't make changes right now, but potentially next year is when you'd start looking at that, depending on how the rest of this year goes.
Yep.
Hey, thanks so much, Eclipse, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
No, nothing specific. Just shout out to Jan for overperforming beyond what I think anybody expected.
Yeah.
Or could have hoped for.
Yeah, thanks so much for the call, and really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Thank you.
All right, that is the show. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Let's do a round of shout-outs. Cubby, what do you want to plug? What do you want to shout out?
Shout out to Kangas for helping make this past birthday fun. It was small. I had work that day. And then shout out to my grandpa. He turned 91 today. Orion Samuelson. He's in the Radio Hall of Fame. He's part of the reason why I actually picked up casting in the first place. I talked to him before Hotline League. I know for anyone that has had old people in their life, watching folks age can sometimes be hard, but also very fun. He's always been sharp as attack, but of course he's 91 now, not as much. Able to share some new memories, which was kind of a rare one, so that was fun. Learned about the biggest snow he ever saw in Wisconsin. So definitely appreciate him. So thanks to everyone at home. Excited to watch some LTA this upcoming week, along with some NACL and LPL. Yeah.
How about yourself, Kangas? What would you like to shout out and plug?
First off, shout out Cubby's birthday also, and how bad he and I are at Mario Kart compared to our younger friends. We both went in so cocky, like, man, we're like, we can only take games off each other. We're both crazy good, and then we got third, fourth place. So that was a little embarrassing.
Well,
but also shout out card games. I know, Travis, you're a big card game guy. Thanks for the invites to your Magic events. I'm a big Yu-Gi-Oh guy, and I just launched a Yu-Gi-Oh channel. We're gonna have weekly uploads where we do just paper Yu-Gi-Oh content. So go check it out. It's called Steven and Steven on YouTube. We have like 100 subscribers. We just uploaded our first video yesterday. It's awesome. So gonna be having fun trying to grow that over the summer.
Okay, when I Google Steven and Steven, does it come up? So you Steven and Steven Yu-Gi-Oh? Would that work?
No, just no spaces. Steven and Steven.
Okay.
And again, it literally the channel is just created as of yesterday. So like maybe
I
it's not
see
even,
it.
like,
Okay, Steven and Steven, no spaces. You can just do at Steven and Steven as the handle.
Yes.
Old school
Now
Yu-Gi-Oh
Travis
is
is gonna
crazy, and this is a picture of you wincing at what I believe is Pot of Greed. Is that the name of that card?
Yes. We might need to get a thumbnail editor. So if anybody has good recommendations. But otherwise, it's been fun filming those. We have like 3 already filmed that are being edited right now, and have more.
All of the esports people are escaping, creating backdoor exits for themselves into the card game world. Pastry Time. Have you seen Pastry Time's Magic channel? Have you heard about this?
No.
I heard he's killing it.
What is it? It's like On Airplane or something. It's a weird name. I'm trying to find it out so I could shout it out on the Hungry on Plane. So that's the name of his YouTube channel. It's got 18K subscribers, and his videos bang. Yeah, dude. He's got videos on here that get 600K views, 1 million views.
Ooh,
the surprising genius of the worst deck to win a Pro Tour. They're all like video essays. So if you like Pastry Time's Australian accent and you enjoyed his casting, go search up Hungry on Plane, because that is we're all creating our backdoor card game channels so that when this all implodes, we could just go play card games. We didn't get a riff.
I'm actually doing this so that I can get all the Yu-Gi-Oh players to come play League and watch LTA, and that's how we're gonna save it. We're gonna get the card game people to come this way.
We did not get a Rift-bound call tonight, so that's heartbreaking. But
I know we had one proposed. We had 2 proposed. I almost grabbed one, but it ended up being some decent topics tonight. We had 3 split one topics about potential 3 top teams.
Yeah.
So,
people actually want to talk about games and teams. It's unheard of on this show.
Still want to make changes, there weren't any like hot takes or predictions. Bummed about that, it's what it is. Everyone wants to have control from home,
For me, I will be at MXP Santa Clara 2025, the weekend of April 18th to the 20th. Please come play Magic with me. Go check it out. Go buy tickets, because these events survive off of being able to predict how many people they're going to be. So buy a ticket and figure out a way to let them know that I sent you, because they are bringing me in as a special guest of the event. So, and I'm friends with those guys, Laughing Dragon folks. So please go check that out. Sean Atone says, that is Easter, Travis. Nobody's leaving family for that. I'm fucking leaving family for that. I'd love to play Commander on Easter rather than attend church and see family and hunt Easter eggs. No, thank you. I'm trying to combo off against my opponent at a Commander game. Secondly, I do want to shout out Cubby's birthday. Thirdly, I want to shout out International Transgender Day of Visibility. So shout out to all of the Hotline League and TGI viewers who are trans, and just know that you're real, and your existence does not actually inhibit anyone else's life. Thanks everyone for watching. This is Hotline League, and we will see you all next week when LTA is back, baby.